Hello there, and welcome to Preprints in Motion, a podcast taking a deep dive in the fast-paced world of preprints.
Join us as we sit down with early career researchers, discuss their latest preprint, and find out about their journey through the muddy marshes of academia.
Hit that subscribe button, leave a rating, and find us on Twitter at MotionPod. Support us by heading over to buymeacoffee.com/preprints. But for now, let's get into the show.
Right, so a bit of housekeeping before we start. This is the last episode of 2022, so we can have a bit of a break over Christmas. In no small part because as of next week, I'm away until January, pretty much. Great. There's a positive academia. People say I'm too negative. There's a positive.
There you go.
The next episode will be in January, on the 18th of January, which is our really big chat with Mike Eisen about all of the eLife history, as well as the more controversial changes. And it should coincide actually with eLife doing those changes. So we'll be timely again, which is good. Emma has been away for a while. You may have noticed not hearing her voice on many episodes. She should hopefully be joining us again in January. I really hope she does, because I'm sick of doing all the extra work.
But Merry Christmas to Emma.
Yeah, that bit. Emma, come back. But we dropped Emma, and we picked up a Camilla instead.
Yay!
So we're going to be doing a bunch of new stuff next year. We've got a couple of documentaries that I keep promising and then not writing, but they are slowly progressing, so they will be coming next year. In the first half of the year, we're going to be doing the EDI-focused documentaries, so it's a series where each episode will focus on a different group within academia, and we'll be telling stories to back up all of the sort of statistics around what it's like to be that group in academia. But good and bad stories, hopefully. And the first one is the Women in STEM, which should hopefully be coming, supposed to be coming in February. Probably going to be coming in the first half of the year instead. And then, what else am I doing? That's it. That's the intro stuff. So, I guess the thing to do would be to reintroduce the people here on the team. Camilla might drop a hint about what she's going to be doing next year.
Maybe, will I?
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I will be speaking with young PI, so it will be a nice conversation on how did they manage to get a position in this day and age.
So why don't you introduce yourselves a little more for the listeners actually?
Sure. So I'm a postdoc living in Paris at the moment. I was born and raised in Chile, in South America. I moved to Paris almost 4 years ago, and I've been doing a postdoc here, having fun. I do enjoy an open conversation about science, so this is quite my thing.
John?
For the newer listeners who probably won't have heard my voice before or recently, I'm John, so I was for a long time the sole editor. Now we have Camilla on board, so I guess I'm kind of like the editor-in-chief now. And I've been kind of lurking away in the background, not been on so many recent episodes, but hoping to kind of get back involved in being in a few more of the recordings after Christmas. So I'm a postdoc at the Liverpool School of Tropical Medicine, so I'm a sort of professional mosquito wrangler. Tiny lassos.
I wish that was true. I wish that's how you did it. A lot harder to ride a mosquito, though.
Indeed.
Might squash them.
The wings get in the way.
So this Christmas episode is going to be all about the various different preprint servers that exist. And we've chosen three of the bigger ones. And we're going to talk about their good bits, their not so good bits, if we have any of the not so good bits. And then tell you why you should definitely choose what I think we'll probably agree on one. But we'll see. It might not. I don't want to bias it. It might not go that way. So preprint servers have a very, very interesting history behind them, and we'll be doing that next year. But as of 2022, at least, there are over 50 different servers. So they've really grown a lot, and it's kind of an inescapable topic since the pandemic. Preprints were everywhere. People understood what I do for a change, which is great. And we're contributing to that, but that's what we do. Some of those are very, very specialised. So you've got things like EcoEvoRxiv, which is Ecology, Evolution and Conservation Archive, whereas some are geo-restricted, such as AfriaRxiv, which is for African researchers in science. So we're going to talk about preprint servers based on discipline, scope, policies, readership, all that kind of stuff, which you need to know to inform where you put your preprint and where you can get the maximum visibility and all the good stuff that preprints give you. So I have bioRxiv/medRxiv. I drew the easy, sure, little straw there, didn't I? I can't remember what the other two have.
Okay, I have preprints.org, pretty much what it says on the tin.
And I have Research Square.
There we go. So Research Square, we've already done an episode on. We've had Michelle on couple of times now. Who's now left Research Square. But we had a couple of times while she still worked at Research Square. And bioRxiv, medRxiv was covered with John and Richard, and is one of our most listened to episodes still. So I will actually link those and write some decent show notes for this one.
Emma would be proud.
She'd hate the past. They've been terrible. We've not actually had anyone on from preprints.org, though. We've not really talked about that one either much.
Well, we're Gunster.
It's mainly because certainly when I'm doing it, I get a lot of my preprints through Twitter or bioRxiv. I don't really sit and look through the other ones very often.
How's everyone finding new Twitter, by the way? I haven't actually noticed the difference, if I'm honest, yet, apart from a lot of people saying they're jumping ship, but yeah, don't know.
Yeah, apart from the news, it kind of looks more or less normal.
I'm very confused. Everyone's the same person now, and they've all got a blue tech mark, and I don't know who's real. I'm like having a little existential crisis on there. Has anyone moved off to Mastodon?
No, I still haven't had the energy to do
I'm
it.
I'm like 3 followers away from 500 on Twitter or something, or maybe 2 now actually. Like I've put a lot of, I know it's not that many, but I've put a lot of time and effort into those. So I don't want to start again. I know you can sync them, but
I only just broke it, and then now look what happened. Finally got over 1,000, and it goes down the drain. Now back to 100, I think, on Mastodon.
Yeah, it's more complicated with the server thing, and I don't know.
Not really. You just have to make sure you pick the server that is run with the rules in place that you kind of want, because some of them let you do certain things and others don't. Join the general ones; they're easy.
Exactly.
Has anyone used Mastodon yet for, like, you know, coming across preprints and things, or coming across new publications? Does it work well for that? Here we are. We're not only reviewing the preprint servers, we're also reviewing the method of finding the preprint servers now. So it's double episode.
So my Mastodon is actually a lot like my early Twitter was, which is primarily a feed of bioRxiv preprints. But as you follow more people, it is starting to expand out a bit, and people are generally at the moment either cross-posting everything or doing like specific things on each platform. But I think it's working all right. I haven't found anything interesting for me, but there's definitely papers on there that are being, and preprints that are being shared out. I've not seen any, well, whatever you would call a tutorial on there. Well, threads. I've not seen any thread equivalents on Mastodon yet for a preprint, but they must be.
Because I suppose that's the good thing about when you've got a new preprint or a paper, doing the little thread with all the little figures and a little sort of non-technical description of what everything is. So
Yeah.
something for Mastodon to look at there.
You can still do it. You can still do it. The only downside, at least on the one I'm on, I can't do any GIFs anymore, and it makes me very sad.
Well, that's very good.
Hopefully that will come. It's like a step back. Anyway.
So, jury's out on Mastodon as a method of finding preprints, but what about preprint servers themselves?
I see.
Segue.
Why am I doing this? So, we're going to start with the appearance and ease of use of preprint servers. So, this is how you navigate around, how you find preprints, that kind of stuff. It might also be uploading. Although generally uploading a preprint is the same across most of the servers at least, so it's not a huge difference. So we're going to focus more on usability as a reader. Who wants to go first?
I can go first. So, on Research Square, I think in terms of navigating preprints, it's quite easy on the eye. So the interface looks quite nice, like very streamlined. But the main disadvantage that I found is that when you go to preprints, so the section where you actually browse them, instead of showing you like a search bar where you can input something and then decide what to look for, it gives you like the latest ones, which I found a bit frustrating because they are in very different areas. So I get like kind of distracted on the thing that it's like next to them. And then the search function is like a really small box on the right of the screen. So. In terms of navigating, I mean, it has a really good selection of filters and stuff. So you can quickly select like by area or by... one of the things that I will discuss later is that it's quite well integrated with publishers. So in a way, it tells you like where the preprint is under review. So you can like quickly see everything, and you can filter by those kind of things as well. Regarding the submission process, I cannot comment on submitting directly to the server because the system was down the few times that I tried this week. But apparently, if you upload to any of the associated journals, then you can automatically send them to Research Square. So then it appears there.
What did you think of all of the different subject areas on Research Square?
It's quite diverse. Like there is everything from social sciences, computational research, biology. Like literally, there is everything there. it's quite multidisciplinary. So that's good, but you need to dig for what you're looking for.
Yeah, I was going to. This is one of the reasons I don't actually use Research Square when we're finding preprints for the show, because there's so many areas. It's not as easy. I don't find it as easy to navigate.
Yeah, I found it easy to navigate in terms of like searching for specific words. Like if you're looking on a paper, in my case, on salmonella, then you get them. But if you go to microbiology, then there is literally everything.
Okay, what about preprints.org?
Well, I was just having a quick look then because I realised that I'd when thinking about this question, I'd looked at everything to do with submitting a preprint and absolutely nothing to do with actually looking at a preprint. So I was just having a look now, but I have to say I'm pleasantly surprised by the I'll start with the looking at a preprint as a reader on there. Yeah, it's quite. I mean, it's all the profiles of the authors, kind of linked to those who've got ORCID IDs and things are kind of linked through. I would say like the get the PDF, get the supplementary files, cite it, all the little buttons for that. I would say in some ways more obvious than I think they are on somewhere like BioArchive. Some of those things are kind of split up and hidden as tiny little links. These are like nice big obvious buttons, which is quite nice. It's got the little metrics right there in the corner as well for the views and downloads. And then in terms of actually submitting as an author, yeah, the instructions for authors are actually quite nice, quite detailed, better than some journals, I think, in terms of how, subheading all the information so it's easy to find, if you were like, what's my sort of word limit of sections, or what article types can I do, or stuff, all that kind of stuff is, I think, easier to find in some journals, maybe. So, yeah, in terms of it's all pretty simple, nothing's too hidden, and everything's just sort of there under a very obvious heading for you to find, so, yeah, can't complain about that.
Broadly positive. So, BioArchive is probably the one most people will be quite familiar with. So really, the thing I most like about BioArchive is how easy it is to move around, because they've got a relatively limited number of subject areas, and once you click into it, you just get a list by most recent posted, and you work your way through. It's nice for something like this when you want the most recent posted. If you search, the search function actually works quite well. It does have an advanced search, whereas Research Square, that's kind of just a drop down, and here you've actually got to go to another bit to do it, but still, it is there. They do have a really nice layout, I think, once you get into the preprint. So I disagree with you saying that PDF bits were difficult. There's a little bit on the side where you've got your download PDF, you can print, save type options. The little share buttons are quite small. It also has its supplementary material in there, so you can get that quite quickly. One thing we'll come back to is BioArchive relatively recently, did a really cool thing for when you download a PDF so that you can actually export all of your figures inline, should you so wish, regardless of how the authors uploaded them. But you've got your best thing again about BioArchive is this little bar above the abstract or reading bit where it's got all the links to comments, any public peer reviews that have been done, all the Twitter activities built on there. If we write a pre-light for an article, for example, that will appear in there as a community review. And if there's any sort of media attention, that appears in there. And that is really cool. It's a very simple way of showing stuff. It is another click, and then you get this bar open in the side, which is not, I think more clicking is not always ideal, but I quite like that way of doing it. What that has done since they did that, they used to have the comment section underneath, and that's now part of this little box, which kind of hides the comments a little bit, but at the same time, the box tells you if there's any comments, so you might be more inclined to click on it than scroll right the way down to the bottom of an article on a page. I like it. Are we doing ratings? I think we should do ratings. Let's rate them all out of 10. None of these made up numbers.
Out of 10?
Out of 10 for appearance and ease of use.
Okay. I will give it a 6.
Okay.
Research Square, I will give it a 6, yes. It's like everything is a drop-down menu, basically, so sometimes you want just the information.
Preprints?
Yeah, the one thing I have just noticed is that they did one of the advantages I'd sort of seen on the way, and in sort of one of the things we're going to talk about a bit, which is sort of integration with other things, is that apparently it's sort of well integrated with things like kind of social media posting and things like that. But I'm actually struggling to find where that is. So yeah, that's sort of a negative. But overall, maybe a 7. Like it's quite simple. There's not there's sort of everything you need there, and it's quite clear and easy to use. Yeah. I'll stick my neck out and say 7.
I'm struggling to find there's no Twitter thing on here, which might not be a bad thing in a few weeks.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just uses all metrics, so it'll be within that. But it's weird that it doesn't have its own little bit, because I think the other ones all do. Yeah, the other ones all do.
Yeah, because they sort of bang on about it in one of the sections on the... Well, I mean, when they're trying to sort of sell the thing. So yeah, odd that it's not more obvious.
I would give BioArchive probably an 8.5 maybe out of 10. I think there's... I don't know if I don't like clicking a lot, but I think generally the layout is really good. That little bar thing is brilliant for links out to other stuff. It's a really nice overview of what's been going on for that preprint. And Twitter actually is the most used bit for me from that. But yeah, the subject areas are nice and neat. Yeah, solid 8.5.
Okay, BioArchive leading the competition so far.
I think that might be a theme.
Yeah.
So the next spot is it's the reach and size of the server, which we should also cover the background to the server, because it would be unfair to compare the first servers to the more recent ones. So if we give a bit of background as to where the servers come from, and it's just who runs it, that kind of stuff. And then its reach and its size. If you know that, it might not always be easy to get that info.
Research Square in terms of reach and size. So at the moment they have over 180,000 preprints, and the thing is that this server is part of a company that it's mostly on the digital and in-person editing service for scientists. So the company was founded in 2004 to help researchers who struggle around the world to publish in English. And then the Research Square server on itself was founded in 2019. So it became as a way to give more exposition to scientists and help communicate science, but coming from a place where they were trying to open science or helping different scientists to actually publish their results.
Cool. So Preprint. So yeah, Preprints.org is I think a fair piece smaller than a lot of the rest. So 31,202 total preprints was the figure at about 2:00 this afternoon when I last checked. Who knows if more have been submitted in the last few hours? So not huge. And about sort of 118,000 authors. So yeah, it's definitely sort of smaller overall. So in terms of where it came from and where it is, so it was set up in May 2016. Here we go. So it is run by NDPI, which I didn't realise. And do you know what? Before today, I didn't actually know what NDPI stood for, which is sort of used to parrot it off. It's Multidisciplinary Digital Publishing Institute, apparently. But apparently, originally, it was Molecular Diversity Preservation International. So it's completely changed.
More sense with its acronym.
Yeah, it's completely changed the sort of exactly what its acronym is, what the meaning of it is. But yeah. So I mean, the thing about this is that it sort of basically supports. It's not quite as broad as Research Square, but it's basically interdisciplinary right across all science and technology and engineering and maths and everything. So it's sort of. So it doesn't do social science and things, but it does, everything kind of in that area it does do. And it also seems to accept a slightly wider range of articles. So, for example, I think we had a big discussion when we had the guys from BioArchiv on about how they don't take review articles. Preprints.org do. As well as normal articles and review articles, they take conference papers, essays, brief reports, sort of case reports, short notes, technical notes, or even a hypothesis as well. So something as short as that, which is... a bit like Octopus do that we also spoke to previously. So yeah, they take a slightly broader range of things than some of the others, I think. But yeah, whether or not that's a good thing.
So BioArchive/MedArchive. I'm probably just going to say BioArchive when I'm meaning both. I couldn't get an actual number for the total, but Archivist, which is a great website if you don't use it already, currently indexes about 211,000 papers. So it's probably somewhere around those. I don't know if that is including multiple versions or not. At least as of April 2021, there were about 86,000 single version preprints on BioArchive alone. So I reckon that number's probably true, actually, 211,000 now. It was founded in 2013, so it's the oldest one we're talking about here. Not the oldest preprint server ever, but certainly the most successful. I think in part because of the things we're going to talk about in this episode as to why it's really helped launch preprints a little bit. It is funded by a bunch of people, actually, but primarily the funding comes from things like CZI, so that's the Mark Zuckerberg Foundation, and in the UK, the Wellcome Trust funds BioArchive, and it's certainly if you follow anything Wellcome say, you can see their reasoning behind that. They're very big on open access. And so it's not funded by any companies or anything like that where it's designed to turn a profit. It is there to actually truly just serve science, which is quite nice, and represents probably another area that funders have, certainly at the start of societies and funders, a lot of them would have their own journals and stuff. That kind of died off because it didn't really work out very well. It's quite expensive to run. So this is quite a nice reintegration of that kind of thing. That was it. Yeah, that was it. That was easy. So in terms of where you would post your preprint, should you do it, where out of those three, based on that info, where would you go for yours?
I will always choose BioArchive. I think what I will say could be an advantage of Research Square is its integration with journals during the submission process. So if you're already submitting to a journal, you can basically click a couple more things and then you upload it here. So between that and putting it in the BioArchive, you have basically more exposure. It's the same thing, but you have more exposure. So if you're looking to more diffusion of your work, then maybe it's a good idea to just click on this one. So in my case, if I have to choose just one, I will go to BioArchive anyway.
John?
Yeah, so yeah, in terms of the integration with journals thing that you were talking about there, so yeah, obviously, so I think Research Square is integrated with Nature Springer journals, isn't it? Preprints.org is also integrated with journals, but just NDPI journals. Do with that information what you will. Camilla's pulling her face. So yeah, I don't know about this actually. Do Research Square do sort of reviews and that sort of thing, or are they only data articles similar to BioArchive? Because that's the only advantage I can see. If you actually had like something a bit more review-like that you wanted to put somewhere, then it might be that preprints.org, but.
Yeah, no, they don't have, depending on how you decide to submit your preprint to this server, you may have like the full timeline of where your paper was submitted, if it's under review, under revision, etc., etc. But that really depends on the journal you're submitting to. So for some of them, you have like the full transparency of everything and what it is. But for others, you can only know that it was submitted there, and if it hasn't been rejected, then it still keeps the logo of submitted to blah blah.
But they don't do review articles, right?
No.
So that's it. If I had a little if I had an idea for a little review article that wasn't really in my main area of research and that I might submit that to preprints.org. But I think anything in terms of data, I think still BioArchive.
I'm always BioArchive. I wouldn't submit anywhere else. But should.
If you have a little review that it's not under your general topic, you can go to Octopus or a small piece of data.
So if it was a review article, I would probably put that on OSF because that is one of the things you can upload on their side of things.
Oh, brilliant! Then don't need to go anywhere near preprints.org. Fantastic.
Let's try not to get sued. But I would also go with BioArchive. BioArchive also has a lot of journal integrations. I'm not sure if it has as many as the other two, but that's because the other two, I'm not sure if Research Square is only Springer Nature journals or not. I have a feeling it's not.
Oh, is it not? Oh, okay.
It's not. They have a list, like an endless list of associated journals.
Okay.
Yeah, no, preprints.org is literally just NDPI ones.
So, BioArchive has quite a long list, and it grows all the time. And it's everywhere there from sort of PLOS right up to science is on there as well. I don't know if it's Nature and Cell are. Presumably they are by now. So, you've got that with BioArchive as well. I've done this a few times now, and it is a really simple process. One thing we didn't discuss, actually, that we probably should in this bit, how is the process of revisions? Well, you might not know how it's handled if you've not done it, but how does it appear on the preprints? Because BioArchive, we've uploaded revisions of our preprints a few times, and that was a very easy process. You just upload the same thing again, and then you do a little bit about what changed. Not everyone does that bit. I wish everyone would actually fill that box out. It would make my life a lot easier. And that's kind of it. And then you can go back on BioArchive through all the previous revisions of a preprint. If the author's done that little box, you can see what's changed, or at least what they think has changed. So how does the other ones? How do Research Square handle that?
So if you decide to submit using it's called, actually, it has a name, the thing that they do with the journals, it's called in review. So if you decide to go that route, then if there is a full integration between the two, then you have the full timeline, and it tells you how they work, if you are in revision, in review, etc. if you want to post a second version, let's say, of your paper, then it has to be a new submission. They don't allow like a real version 2.0 to be uploaded to the same submission.
What about preprints.org?
I didn't look into this in great detail, but it does say that the if you upload multiple versions of the paper, they will sort of all be securely archived permanently. I don't know what it's like in terms of linking together different versions of the same thing. I had a bit of a fly around to see if I could find any that were kind of where there was multiple versions that had been submitted one paper. I was sort of struggling to find one. So I've got one here, for example, where there's a sort of big green heading at the top that says a peer-reviewed article of this preprint also exists, and then there's a kind of the peer-reviewed bit is a link that presumably links out to the actual article in a journal. I think there was one I looked at a minute ago that sort of said, this version has been superseded by another version. There was a link to the new version. I've got one here that says preserved in Portico. I'm not sure what that is, but apparently. They've got sort of little identified things at the top. But yeah, in terms of how much they link together different versions of the same thing, I'm not entirely sure.
Okay.
Yeah, what I forgot to say is that in the case of Research Square, if it's accepted in a specific journal, then they say that this paper has been peer-reviewed and it's accepted in blah.
Do they link out to the journal article?
I couldn't find anything that was linked.
Ooh.
That's surprising.
Research Square dropping a point or two there, maybe.
Yeah.
That'd be a really easy thing they should do, yeah.
Why would you not link it out?
We will discuss some stuff about some negative aspects of this one.
So,
We'll see.
what were we talking about?
That was to do with the versioning.
Yeah, right, okay, yeah.
Yeah, version.
Lots of drink. So BioArchive really good for the versioning because, like I said, you can go back through and find it all. When it is published, they usually, doesn't always get it, but it will tell you it's been published in, and then that is the link out to the article. They only don't get that if your title changes quite considerably. But you can email in and they'll update it for you manually. It's usually pretty good at catching them.
Sorry, quick revision of what I said. Yes, if there is one that it's already put as published, it links to the peer review in the journal. So yes, I actually managed to find one now. But it's kind of harder to get to them. Like they get like crashed in the endless list of other journals.
So while we're on this topic, actually, how easy is it to find a preprint that has been peer reviewed? Because there's another thing that BioArchive kind of snuck out a little bit, where there's now a button where you press on that and it links you to all the preprints that have some kind of associated peer review with them. I don't know how widespread that is on the other ones.
Yeah, so in this case, even if the paper was published in a specific journal, and therefore it was peer-reviewed, the preprint that was deposited in the server, it still appears as a preprint that has not been peer-reviewed by a journal, which I found kind of counterintuitive. Like, once it's published, why not put that it was already peer-reviewed and the link is here? And like you need to look for the link instead of like, I don't know, it should tell that it was peer-reviewed, basically. So, and it does not allow it allows for commenting and stuff, but not really for a proper revision or peer-reviewed system within the server.
So just some preprint servers won't tell you the preprint is peer-reviewed because they class them as different things. So the preprint hasn't been peer-reviewed necessarily, but the publication has. So that's why they do that wording. What about preprints.org? If you can find an example.
It's not. There's certainly no way of filtering for things that are also peer reviewed. That's not there. To be honest, when you've got a list of articles kind of just sat there, when you've searched and you're looking through the list of articles, I don't think it necessarily points out. Oh, maybe it does. No. I don't know. Most of them have a little tag on saying preprint. A couple of them have got this thing saying working paper, and I thought that might be ones that had then been published, but no, it was just one of them by fluke. Yeah, there's nothing on as far as I can see, when you're looking at the list of search results, there's nothing to indicate which ones have and haven't then been peer reviewed. Okay,
so we've kind of done journal integrations and reach size usability in that bit. Scores at the doors.
For this aspect, I mean, as I said, if you're submitting to a journal that it's integrated with Research Square, then, I mean, it's kind of good because you have the full timeline not only on the little tag in your publication, but you also have it in your preprint. When it was submitted, when it was sent to reviewers, etc., and when it was published. But other than that, I don't know. I think the comments are not easy to find, so even if someone comments on your article, then it's not really visible. I didn't see, for example, any manuscript that had like a proper conversation on the comments, so it's more like it's there and it's open, so it's out. But there is not really a conversation with the aims of like improving the manuscript. So I will say maybe, like, again, a 6.
Yeah, I was just looking at the comments. I've just gone through maybe 10 different ones from a random search I did, and there's not a single comment in any one of them. So yeah, it's just something to mention in that. I mean, once you get to an article, it does tell you if it's a peer review version, it does link out to it, but you can't search by that. It doesn't necessarily. Yeah, like the different versions are archived. I'm not sure how easy it is to get between the different versions of the paper if they've been submitted again as a preprint. More than one version's been submitted as a preprint. Yeah, 5 maybe, if I'm being generous.
I mean, it is quite small as well, so...
Yes, so yeah, we have to remember that, I suppose it's not going to have all the functionality.
It's supposed to be scoring on reach and size.
Yeah.
Yeah. We put those two together there by accident. I think BioArchive gets a solid 9. It's big...
I agree.
And it's easy to navigate. It's got there are comments on there. There's not comments on every article, and certainly anything not code related tends not to get that much in terms of comments, which is true before the pandemic as well. But it does link out to Twitter, where that really helps, actually, having that bit on there. But yeah, I think solid 9 for reach. And of course, it has the name recognition. So I think we've got to remember preprints are still something like 8 to 10% of the total biomedical literature. So BioArchive having the name recognition does help a little bit, I think. Something people might at least be somewhat familiar with, even if they've never engaged with preprints before. So the next bit that we kept touching on there would be additional offerings. So this is things like any public peer reviews, any links to where the data might be, any things to do with printing the PDF, or links out to other things like the attention or the metrics that you can get access to, all those kind of things that are in addition to just the process of finding a preprint.
Yeah, in that sense, Research Square is not great, let's say. It doesn't have much information with regards to like the data, where it is. It's basically an HTML and PDF version of whatever you submitted. And what I found like particularly annoying is that in some cases, apparently, when the authors sent the preprint, they sent the text but not the figures, and therefore the figures were not included in the PDF. And there were references to the figures all throughout text, but there were no figures. So I think, and if the figures are not there, I mean, the rest of the information is also not there. What I did found nice is that you have the ability to upload supplementary files. So if your preprint is movie heavy, for example, then you can download the movies from the server. So that's actually quite good. And in terms of other additional offerings that they have, it has nothing to do with the data itself, but because this company is focused on science communication in terms of helping scientists from abroad to publish in English, they do offer some paid editing services. One of them is a digital one, so it uses artificial intelligence to evaluate your paper, which is good. And although it's not free, it's $150 per year. For some people, it might be worth it. For others, it might not. But the fact that you can integrate with that kind of service, it's something to consider that I found quite unique.
How about preprints.org?
Yeah. So yeah, I've just put a bit of a look through some of the actual sort of PDFs and things. And yeah, the supplementary information is there if you want it. It seems like on a lot of them, people have. I think it's people who have done it, or if they're doing a tiny bit of sort of typesetting at the preprint server and they're actually putting figures kind of in the article. But it does seem like a lot of the figures are more sort of in the middle of the article and not all bunched together at the end like they tend to be on BioArchive. Again, in terms of kind of additional things, it does sort of, I mean, they've kind of bigged up things like, we can link out to your ORCID profile and side profiles and social media accounts things, so make sure your preprint gets noticed, but I think, they kind of all do that, so I'm not sure that's particularly special. Again, they've got metrics, that's all kind of there. Again, I suppose that this whole thing about, they are linked to journals, they've got a pipeline you can follow to, again, if you want to publish an NDPI journal. But yeah, I don't know if they offer anything stellarly exciting. It's got a nice little link to bookmark things into like Mendeley or, things like that, but there's nothing that wows me. I think in many ways it looks quite nice. It's quite well laid out, but it's not a lot of extra bells and whistles as far as I can see.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I think BioArchive's going to wipe the floor here. So you've got all of those things, and all the things we already talked about with that little linking out bar. So public reviews can be attached, so it's not just you get your preprint, you also get the reviews that are associated with that preprint, and the author's comments, actually, if they respond. But I'll just highlight some of the really cool things that you can do with BioArchive. So I already mentioned that when you choose to print, you can set it up so that whether your figures are inline or at the end of the article. I'm one of those who likes the figures at the end, but now you can choose. You don't have to have that annoying Twitter argument every few months. You can just do it as you please. BioArchive also now attaches conference videos of the preprint to the preprint. So this is only done with sort of organized conferences. You can't just do a seminar and have it uploaded, although I would hope that would eventually be coming in. But it does mean that if you present your preprint at a conference and that is recorded and available online, then that can also now be attached to your preprint, which I think is a really nice way of linking those things that are usually quite separate together. You also have, and I don't know if this is true for the other two. Sorry, I do know the answer to that. But for BioArchive, it's not, BioArchive didn't make it, but you can access BioArchive through APIs. And so if you wanted to get data about BioArchive and the preprints that are on there, you can get that very, very easily. We did that for our papers, and it is a brilliant way of accessing it. Whereas for other preprint servers, and actually this didn't make it into the final paper because of this reason, but we had to ask for data and information, and it was a lot. It's a lot harder to do it when you can't just do it yourself. So I know Research Square and Preprints.org, at least 2 years ago, didn't have that functionality. Scores?
I will say probably 7. Okay, it's not that bad as any other categories, so I think it's a 7.
John?
Well, I was just for a score. One thing I had noticed in my notes, it's in a different section actually, but I don't know if others do this as well. Are preprints from BioArchive and Research Square, do they appear on like PMC and PrePubMed and Google Scholar? Okay, so that's nothing special to, because
So
they've trumpeted that, but it doesn't. I didn't think that was something special. I thought all preprints did that. So
Well, this is why I was invited to join the board of Europe PMC. Yeah, they cover preprints, and they're trying to expand what they do with preprints a lot more.
it was just that Preprints.org was a section where they were trumpeting, it immediately appears on Europe PMC and Google Scholar and PrePubMed. But no, exactly. No, in which case, 4, let's say. Again, it's the very basics of what a preprint server needs to be. Basically, is all there, but there's nothing fancy beyond, occasional comment or link out to an ORCID profile.
I mean, all these things do have the altmetrics attached to them, which does give you a lot of the information, but it is an extra thing you've got to go through, whereas I think BioArchive is quite nice it gives you that, but it also puts it together in separate bits. I reckon BioArchive gets a good 10 out of this.
Yeah, for sure.
They do some really cool stuff. I haven't seen one yet with the conference video attached, but it's a really cool bit. And I think that there must be one. It's just not in my field.
Was it Research Square that threatened they were going to do things like, if people would say for example a podcast episode on something?
You can upload videos, but when you do the search for videos, you get 0 of 0 preprints. So obviously nobody's done that. But yeah, okay, there we go. That was a clear winner. So what about overall opinions, positive opinions of the server? How did Research Square do?
So overall, I think the main advantages are that it's multidisciplinary, so it's not really narrowing the fields that it uploads, that it accepts. It has a very good integration with journals, so it can give you, if the journal is transparent enough, a really good view of the reviewing process. And it's easy enough to navigate. You can upload even really big data files, so movies and stuff. I think that's good. So overall, I would say those are the main advantages. And the fact that you can also opt in for the editing system. It's quite nice.
I'll let you go next with BioArchive, because one of the main things I'm going to say about mine is sort of it's going to roll together a positive, and we're also then going to head into the negative, so I'll make a nice little bridge, I think.
So the thing with BioArchive is I struggle to come up with negatives. There's a lot of positives for BioArchive, not just because it's been around for a long time, but also, if you follow certainly Richard on Twitter, John's not very active on Twitter, but he's quite responsive to people's comments on BioArchive. If they have any complaints, he's quite responsive to that. So you can actually get, you almost have a direct link to the guy running the thing. So if you have a problem, you can usually get sorted quite easily, which is an extra little bonus you don't really get very often in any part of life. So that's quite nice. But it's just very easy to navigate. It's got all the bits together where you want them. It does a really good job of integrating with a lot of extra things to really bring the whole ecosystem around having a publication together, so that things like the talks are being brought in, the peer reviews are being brought in, almost doing everything, not quite. And so I think, I think it's a very good server. I am very biased, but I should also say, actually, this is probably a good time to say it, I have been writing for Research Square and bigging them up as well, so I'm not totally biased here. John?
I am in no way paid or sponsored by Preprints.org, you'll be pleased to know. So
I'm not paid.
Yeah, no, I know that'd be today. Okay, positives. Let's start with some positives. It is very multidisciplinary. Again, just science and technology, but it is very out there. And actually, in some ways, that can be a bit hard sometimes because you're like, well, there's so many different subject areas within that. But then actually, there is a list of all they sort of tried to do a comprehensive list of all the subject areas they actually take. What they've basically said is we take all science and technology and engineering, but here is all of science and technology and engineering broken down into a certain number of categories and things. So it's sort of, I guess, it's kind of helpful for that kind of stuff. Like I say, the author guidelines, if you're submitting something to it, are all quite clear or quite detailed as to sort of, what happens, how the process works, what's expected, your manuscript and the sort of research in it. Right, so shall we tackle the elephant in the room?
Go on then. Negatives
So
of the server.
Here we go. Well, so again, I'm going to try and bring this back to what might nearly be a positive. Maybe I'm being too fair-minded. It's Christmas after all. So, Preprints.org is run by MDPI. For people that don't know, MDPI has been controversial for a while now. I think it's probably a good sort of neutral word to sort of say without biasing it too much. There's been sort of they're probably not what you would call a true predatory set of journals, but there's allegedly some behaviours that are in that sort of area. There's been reports of a lot of sort of self-citation, a lot of picking when and where to cite articles that were in NDPI journals at a later date in another article in an MDPI journal to sort of play around with impact factors year to year. Now, all of these things, all of the sort of, and the other phrase that kept coming up was that a lot of the articles are quite lightly reviewed in their journals. Now, a lot of these things where they fall down and there's these criticisms of them are around their peer review process. And obviously, this is a preprint server, so those things aren't there. They're there if you're, going to submit to the preprint server and then get them to cascade it onto one of their journals afterwards. And if you choose to do that, then on your own head be it. But actually, in terms of putting a preprint there, I don't think it's so bad because again, a lot of the things they get accused of as being sort of negative points of how they operate are to do with their kind of peer review side. And so these are preprints, so they don't apply. There you go. That was nice and fair.
If we get sued over something you've said and not over something I've said, I'm going to be very, very unhappy.
Well, that's why I was trying to be very fair-minded, and there was a lot of allegedly, and it has been drawn to the attention of people that perhaps, and
Sadly, we don't have a legal department to run this through.
No.
So that was entirely John's opinion.
Yeah, it wasn't okay, thanks.
How about Research Square?
In terms of negatives, I will say that the fact that there's...
That'll be the cat food.
So, yeah, we were, this was before we started recording, but we were warned that Camilla's automatic cat feeder was going to go off at some point during the recording, and it just has.
Exactly.
That's what that noise was.
Perfect. And so I have 2 cats, and only one came out, so...
What mischief is the other one causing?
Second. Now it's a second.
That's staying in. That's staying in.
Oh no. Okay, so negatives of Research Square. So what I found the most frustrating is the fact that there is not enough double checking or curation of what it is in the submission, meaning that for some of the manuscripts there were no figures, which I found extremely frustrating to say the least. And according to the site, the manuscripts are screened for the author information, the declaration statements, and potential risk to human health, but nothing else. And also, because they have like the in review system, the preprints are posted on Research Square 72 hours after submission, because it has to go through the journal checks. If you want to submit earlier, then it kind of gets detached from the whole journal thing. So I mean, it's good, but it has some negatives. Like the thing with the figures, for me, it was like very basic. Like if there are figures mentioned in the paper, then they should be in the manuscript. Otherwise, you're not really sharing the actual data behind.
I should add to that, there's an awful lot of journals also make that kind of mistake. There was one I was checking last month, and it was one of those ones where every time there was a figure, it gives you a link to the figure. So you had to press on it to get out to the figure. And every time I did that, throughout the whole article, it linked back to nothing. There was no... It was a published article. People had paid to publish that and access it. And there were no figures in that entire article because they just didn't exist.
Yeah, no, that makes no sense.
So it's not a preprint server thing, that one. That is a publisher issue as well, sadly.
I have to say, just you reminded me of something they actually were saying about the their sort of screening process, and so the they just do the basic ethical checks and that sort of stuff, and that's it. I have to say, there was, I can't remember the exact phrasing of the line, but in the sort of equivalent paragraph when they were talking about the screening process for Preprints.org, they did say something along the lines of, we do check the articles for anything that might be sort of pseudo-scientific statements or any kind of statements that might be present some sort of danger or something. Or so there was a sort of directly addressed kind of people putting spurious rubbish out there. How detailed they check things on a preprint, considering how detailed or not they check things on an actual peer-reviewed article, who knows? But yeah.
Well, certainly for the other two servers, you can kind of get that information listening to our other episodes, because we do cover those topics. But it is generally, it's screening, it's not checking. So it is kind of all these things here, yes, good. Is it not a load of nonsense? Yes, it can go in. God, negative for BioArchive. I'm going to struggle with this bit.
I mean, it's not...
I'm just going to say that it's not the prettiest.
Yeah, I was literally about to say, I was like, it's not...
website.
It's not, it's a bit HTML-y, isn't it?
Yeah.
I kind of like that, though. It keeps it simple.
I mean...
It's not super
you get
pretty.
used to it, but it's not
No,
pretty.
Yeah.
But it does keep it simple.
It's a set of very functional aluminium library shelves, is what it is. It's not your oak floor to ceiling bookcases with the rolling ladder.
The industrial look is all in at the moment.
Oh, I know. I wish it'd stop. Bored of it now. I want a coffee shop with comfy armchairs and side lights. I've had enough of this putting the wiring up the wall stuff.
Okay, there you go. There's a downside then. It's not very pretty.
It ain't pretty.
Otherwise, I haven't got any real negatives to say about BioArchive or MedArchive. Actually, it can be a bit, if you're uploading, it can be a bit confusing as to which one to upload to. There's a slight overlap between the two, but that's only for doing very clinical stuff that you would really have that issue. So there you go. There's two negatives. Didn't think I'd get two, although I disagree with the look. So, bringing it back around to end on a positive, why would you choose your particular server over the other two discussed?
So, in the case of Research Square, so I will say that more than choosing this one over others, I will say that it's complementary and it helps gain visibility. So, if I was submitting to... So, I will actually put it first on BioArchive, and then I will submit to our journal, and then click on the Research Square thing. So, if it's offered, it doesn't hurt.
You might not be allowed to do that.
So, actually, I found several papers that are both in BioArchive and Research Square under revision in whatever editorial house. So, yes, it is possible.
It's possible. You're not meant to.
And it's exactly the same. You're not meant to, but even in one, at least in one of them, actually the PDF that you download on Research Square is the one from BioArchive. So that one was the first one that I found that actually has the figures, for instance. So, I mean, it's an option. But in terms of the other services, like the editing services that they offer, if you're coming from other areas in the world where you're mostly with non-native English speakers, then it could be a good idea, because then you can opt in for those kind of services and really improve your paper in terms that are not necessarily science related, but more on communication.
Okay, John?
Well, I mean, there is, I suppose, the sort of advantage that it's very interdisciplinary. It basically covers all of science and technology, but then Research Square covers things beyond science and technology. So if you were that interdisciplinary, why wouldn't you just put it on Research Square? I suppose, again, if we're looking for a positive, the fact that you can put things like reviews on there, but like you say, you can put those on OSF and things as well. So yeah, I mean, I suppose if you wanted to stay within more of a sort of purely science area and literally just a sort of normal preprint, but you wanted to do a review, and yeah, sort of struggling a bit to think why other you wouldn't submit to others instead. It's an intersection of a few things where like I say, it takes quite interdisciplinary stuff and different article types, but it's at an intersection of, well, if several other preprint servers do the same sorts of things separately, so why wouldn't you just sort of pick one of those instead? It's kind of hovering in the middle somewhere in no man's land. So
that wasn't a positive.
Well, what did you really want me to end on a real strong positive for that one?
Well, I think, I think, like you said, it's quite interdisciplinary. So certainly a lot of the stuff you could post there, you couldn't post on Bio.
And again, it's from an author point of view, it all seems quite. Again, you can't get very far through the submission process without actually creating an account and actually having something to submit. But it just, in terms of the guidance they seem to give and the subject areas, that's all quite nicely laid out and quite user friendly. So there you go. That's more of a proper positive to end on, in the spirit of Christmas and charity and all that, and
not being sued.
Yes.
So why would you choose bioRxiv? I think that's because it's just won this little discussion. But the name recognition helps, like I said, an awful lot. It's very easy to use. It's easy to upload to and revise your upload to preprints. If you're submitting the other way around, as seems to be more common with Research Square, we submitted ours to PLOS Biology, for example. They had a little ticky box. You tick that, and then it went to bioRxiv at the same time. So it's a very, very easy process to use and to do. It's really good if you're one of these people who loves to track all of your stats that your paper's doing, how many readers it's had, all that kind of stuff. Really, really, really accessible. You can click on it and have it open and just refresh every 5 seconds for a few days after you've just published your first preprint, which is exciting. Just slowly get a reader and then maybe another reader. It's quite nice. So I don't even think we need to ask this, but overall, I reckon bioRxiv has won that by a rather large margin.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
There are other preprint servers available.
Well, it's good to know about other servers.
25, 27, something like that. Well, yeah, no, there's all the subject-specific and area-specific ones, and then never mind. Ignore me.
There are 50 different preprint servers, John. We cover this.
There you go.
You listen.
I was reading my notes.
We should probably add the disclaimer that what we've done here is reviewed all the preprint servers from a probably not really used it much, if at all, before perspective. So these are things might have been missed, which is a good point to make if we have missed it.
I was going to say on the versioning, I just searched version 2 in the search bar and did eventually find an article that had more than one version, and that the versions were linked together on preprints.org. Not in the most obvious way. There was a little tiny bit at the top with like the initial submission date and then the second submission date, and the bit, whichever version you're on, the other one that is not the version you're on has a little kind of link on the version 1, version 2 bit that goes to it. So they are linked together.
Well, there you go.
It could be maybe a bit more obvious. So there you go. That's my disclaimer of something that I missed that is actually there. Sorry. Don't sue me.
Oh, yeah, John, not us.
Yeah.
But otherwise, obviously everyone should go and read everything that's on bioRxiv and medRxiv.
Yeah, from start to finish. If you start now, you'll be done by about Christmas 2113.
Well, there'll be a lot more published by then. Yeah.
So no one puts anything else on there in the meantime.
It will never end.
Yeah.
There you
I
go.
haven't got anything else to add. How do we end? Why can't I end?
Yeah,
these
the
things?
specials are always hard to
Every year.
end because they kind of
I don't end the normal ones very well either.
Well,
I
no.
did order my takeaway.
Maybe we can end on saying that whatever we say here as a negative or as a comment on specific server, it might be taken as constructive feedback.
Yeah.
Like the fact that they don't review if they have figures or not in their manuscripts, or they are not connected with ORCID or whatever. So in the end, it's feedback. And we're all scientists.
Definitely feedback.
We're
I'm not
trying
sure
to help you.
MDPI really take feedback.
No. I'm sure they maybe listen to some of it.
The takeaway is, doesn't matter where you post your preprint, you should be posting a preprint.
There you go.
No matter where you post it, it will get more attention than it will if you don't post a preprint. And you're getting it out there for free for everyone to read, and that's always a good thing. So post preprints and have a great Christmas.
Please.
Or not, if you're listening to this in like February or March. It's a bit late.
Have a great
Where
next
were you?
Christmas.
If so, we hope you had a good Christmas. Or whatever holiday you celebrate at the end of the year.
There we go.
And as Tiny Tim observed, sort of, God bless preprint servers, everyone.
And that's the show, folks. If you enjoyed listening, then hit that subscribe button to get the latest updates straight to wherever it is you're listening. Don't forget to rate us on Spotify or Apple and follow us on Twitter at MotionPod. You can find links to things we've just discussed on our website, preprintinmotion.com. If you'd like to tell us what you think, then send an email, shout at us on Twitter, or shout at us if you see us walking down the street. This has been a JMJ production, generously supported by our friends at ASAP Bio. Until next time, have a good week.
Are you itching for a good story? Laughter among friends, maybe even a mystery or two? Well, you're in luck. Fire Breathing Kittens is a standalone Dungeons & Dragons podcast. Each episode is a separate 3-hour-long story, like a movie for your ears, so you can listen to these adventures in any order you like. So, join us on a real play D&D quest as we solve mysteries, attempt comedic banter, and enjoy friendship. Fire Breathing Kittens podcast. Fantasy, action, mystery, friendship.
Where do I find out about the different bioarchive licenses? This CC, BY, CDXY nonsense is driving me nuts.
ASAP Bio have a resource for that.
Ugh, that's your answer for everything.
That's because they have everything you need to know about preprints.
Sure, they probably have the basics, like info on the preprint servers, but what else is there?
There's so much more. Looking to post a preprint but not sure what different journal policies are? They have a collection to help you out with that. There are meetings around preprints and associated services. If you want to know how preprint adoption has changed over time, there's even a page on that.
And COVID?
They have a big section on preprints and the pandemic, plus some really cool infographics for communicating preprints.
And university policies? Surely they don't have that.
They collect uni policies where possible.
Okay, they do sound pretty impressive, but is it not a bit of an echo chamber?
It can be, but ASAP Bio also engage with people who don't love preprints and have concerns. So we had an excellent discussion on this very topic a couple of months ago.
Oh, is there anything ASAP Bio don't do?
Honestly, no, they're so nice over there. They were so quick to jump in and support this show. It's your one-stop shop for info on preprints and open science initiatives, so head over to asapbio.org to learn more and subscribe to their newsletter for the latest in preprint news. If you want a deeper dive into the world of preprints, then look out for the next recruitment of ASAP Bio Fellows.
Are you itching for a good story? Laughter among friends, maybe even a mystery or two? Well, you're in luck. Fire Breathing Kittens is a standalone Dungeons & Dragons podcast. Each episode is a separate 3-hour-long story, like a movie for your ears, so you can listen to these adventures in any order you like. So, join us on a real play D&D quest as we solve mysteries, attempt comedic banter, and enjoy friendship. Fire Breathing Kittens podcast. Fantasy, action, mystery,